Welcome back, Mando.
Greetings, Bucketheads. Mevar Tagar. Welcome to our 389th marvelously marvelicious episode of MandoVision, and I am your host, Nargai Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. You can find us on those socials, Mando_Vision on X and Insta, MandoVision at Blue Sky, and of course you can email me direct at MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we are back. And I had planned to come back a little bit later in the week, but of course, exciting news out today. So we'll talk about that, and we're going to wrap it up into our coverage of the first 4 episodes of Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi. We're going to talk about that. Kind of spoilery, kind of not. I'm going to try to keep it vague, but there may be some things, like, depending on your comfort level with spoilers, you may be like, oh, he said too much. So, I'll be careful, but, we are going to talk about some stuff. All right. So, I think it's important that we just get into the show proper right now. So let's go ahead and we're gonna kill the music down. And we're going to do what we do best. And that is knowing what time it is. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off.
You're going to have to relocate the covert.
This is the way.
This is the way.
All right, so you may have seen the announcement already. It's tearing up the internet as we speak. Broken by Entertainment Weekly this morning, which I didn't even know Entertainment Weekly was still a thing. That was rude of me. But the big news, finally, if you're that person, finally, Star Wars will be crossing over into the Marvel 616 comic book universe. That's right, my friends, coming in January 2027, our favorite Rebels and Imperials are coming to the 616 to team up with the likes of Spider-Man, Captain America, Doctor Doom, all the characters, Wolverine, everybody's in this. I mean, it's Marvel. It's not just like Avengers. It's Marvel. Everyone is here. Kevin Smith will be writing the 5-part limited comic book series called Hope Assembles with art from the great David Marquez. And let's see, the heads behind Lucasfilm Publishing tease what's to come, calling the story exciting, unpredictable, and heartfelt. I do recommend heading over to the Entertainment Weekly article itself if you want to take a look at the covers that David Marquez has here. They are pretty fantastic. Our main cover, you got a great shot of Luke Skywalker, Captain America, Spider-Man. You got the Hulk, Scarlet Witch, Thor's in the background. We see X-Wings, and Vader and Doom's helmets loom large in the background. There's another cover with Doom and Vader in the foreground with Thanos behind him. You see Tarkin and some stormtroopers and Venom. You got TIE Fighters, the Death Star. These are loaded covers. I mean, my favorite might be this next one here, which is featuring the Guardians of the Galaxy, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Wolverine. And you got a one with Black Widow and Princess Leia. The Thing, 3PO and R2, Thanos looming large, along with the Black Panther there as well. And then the most random cover, Thanos looms large as we have Ben Kenobi in the foreground with Deadpool, Daredevil, Hawkeye, Uncle Ben, and Aunt Beru, and some Jawas. So this looks like it could be a pretty wild. So as I said, it's coming out in January 2027, 5 issues, which means January, February, March, April, and May. And what happens in May? The 50th anniversary of Star Wars returning to the big screen. 4th set anniversary. It's I don't even know what to tell you about this. I mean, this could be the greatest thing ever, or this could be god awful stinkfest. I have concerns, mostly because like the plot is like I don't know this. Okay, let me tell you what it says. It says Hope Assembles will anchor the Star Wars franchise firmly in Marvel's 616 universe as Earth's mightiest heroes see the events of A New Hope unfold on Earth and before their very eyes after a reality-shattering spell, according to a logline. What could that mean? I assume the Death Star arrives above Earth in the 616 as the next Alderaan, perhaps. I guess we have to wait and see. But I mean, I do like the idea of bad guys like Doctor Doom and Thanos teaming up with the Imperials. That could be fun, But I think my concern with so many of these characters is they're so godlike in the comic books, and for lack of a better word, the Star Wars characters are so grounded by comparison, which I know doesn't make sense, because you have force wielding baddies in Vader and Luke and all this other stuff. So that might sound a bit ludicrous, but when you're dealing with Thanos, you're talking about a guy who has snapped half of reality out of existence, and yes, that did happen in the comic books, not just the movie. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm intrigued. I'm curious. I'm a little scared. It doesn't feel like a natural blending to me for these characters to come together, but I mean, ever since Patton Oswalt filibustered in Parks and Recreation. I think this has long been gestating in people's brains at Marvel Comics. And I obviously, as a fan of my age, I think we've all been talking about it since we were all little kids. Like, wouldn't it be great if Spider-Man and the Hulk teamed up with, Chewbacca and Han Solo, and they all flew the Millennium Falcon somewhere and did something crazy together? It's wild. I'll be honest, I never really thought this would actually happen. It just seemed like a weird fit to me, and so many Marvel publishing initiatives. I don't know. I haven't been excited by a lot of Marvel publishing initiatives of late. They seem gimmicky. They seem designed to promote IP, and for me as a longtime comic book fan and reader, Marvel and DC as well. They both have really become protective of their characters, of the quote intellectual property that most of them are. Because they want to mine it for millions of dollars into movies and things like that. So they don't take the same chances with the characters that they used to in the publishing world. You can read a story from Marvel or DC, and no, don't get me wrong, it'll be a good story, and it will you might temporarily have something that dramatically changes or affects the character or our perception of the character or their standing in the greater DC universe or the Marvel universe or whatever it is. But it's all temporary. It will return to the status quo at some point, usually just in time for the next movie to come out. And that's an unfortunate state of being. Now, comics have always kind of been like that, but you were able to get away with things for a lot longer before Hollywood began to pay attention to comic books again. And so that's sort of like my knock on the industry as it stands right now. But this could be fun. Since I don't read the comics as much as I used to in the Marvel universe, I hesitate to say there's one book I read consistently currently from Marvel. I think I finally stepped away from Daredevil recently, and so I don't think I have one single comic book I'm reading superhero wise from Marvel that's not Star Wars related. That being said, why not? Let's go for it. Let's have some fun. This could be a really fun thing. And I actually do tend to think that Kevin Smith might be the ideal writer for this, because he is a writer who, at this point in his life, he just writes with joy and love for these characters. I mean, it's evident how happy these characters make him. And I think he is able to translate that to the page. And he's always had a good sense of drama about him too. So I think it will work. I think it could be this heartfelt, unpredictable, and enjoyable read as well. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we'll talk about it here on the podcast. But yeah, coming January 2027 for 4 months after that, you got a 5-issue limited series of Star Wars in the Marvel cinema. Nope, not the cinematic universe. The 616. You're in the Marvel comic book universe. Let's see how it goes. It could be a lot of fun, and I'm optimistic. I'm sure we will hear from Kevin Smith more. There's a little blurb from him in the EW article, but I suspect if any of you listen to any of his podcasts, I suspect this will be a big chunk of whatever the next one is that he is on. So I'll be listening to that, and if he has any interesting notes, I'll be sure to pass them along to you via this fine audio podcast that you're listening to right now. All right, so let's get to the second part of our episode, and it's time to talk about the Ninth Jedi. And again, like I said, we're lumping. We're going to kind of talk about the previous Vision specials, and then we'll talk about the 4 episodes. But it is going to be kind of smushed together. But bear with me. I want to do what we always do, which is give credit where credit is due. So I'm going to take a drink of water, but when I come right back, we're going to roll and do what we do. All right?
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
All right, thanks for bearing with me on that. I'm sure where you are is the same, but it is unbearably hot here in San Diego. The last couple of years, humidity just continues to rise off the charts, and it's very, very uncomfortable. And I took one of my dogs out for a very, very long walk along the water today to kind of get a break from the heat, get closer to the water, get some of that ocean breeze, and it helped, but good Lord, is it still hot. So, bit parched as we do the podcast, but we will persevere. And wherever you are, I hope you are doing your best to stay hydrated and stay out of the heat as much as possible. Maybe get into the movie theaters every now and then to sit in that air conditioning for a couple hours. Always a good time. All right, so we are here to talk about Star Wars. Star Wars Visions presents The Ninth Jedi. It's a Studio IG production. They did do 2 parts in the previous in Visions volumes 1 and 3. Volume 1 was our first introduction to the Ninth Jedi, and it's funny. The title is something of a misnomer, but writer and director of the show. Let's see. Let me make sure I got his name right here. I hope I do, because I don't want to blow it. I've already paused too much. Here it is. Kenji Kamiyama, writer and director. And he's got some friends with him too on it. And our primary voice cast, I should read that as well. We have Kamiko Glenn, Andrew Kashino, we have Patrick Seitz, we have Simu Liu, Brent Mukai, Fedor Chin, Neil Kaplan, Ben Diskin's in this as well. Let's see, there's so many. Let's see. Young Mazzino and Keon Young, just to name like sort of our primary voice actors for the show. And they're really bringing to life. One of the interesting parts about the first installment of, let's go back a little bit, the first installment of The Ninth Jedi in Volume 1 of Visions. I loved the idea of a lightsaber smith, someone dedicated solely to making the lightsabers for Jedi. Now, granted, this world, this universe that we are setting the story in is another one where the Jedi have been sort of hunted to near extinction. So a lot of this episode that introduces us to these characters is sort of a rallying cry to bring Jedi together to fight this new tyranny that's in the galaxy and that's trying to take things over. What we get to learn from our lightsaber smith character is, in this universe, the lightsabers work very, very differently. And it's because of the show's creator that he had this idea from when he was a little kid. When Kenji Kamiyama was growing up and was first watching Star Wars, he thought that Vader's lightsaber was red because of him. He thought that Ben Kenobi's lightsaber was blue because of him. And so when he got to Return of the Jedi, and he sees that Han Solo is going to pick up Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, a character with no Jedi properties, no sensitivity or connection to the Force, he's like, oh, it won't work for him. And then it turns on, and we sort of realizes that a lightsaber is just a tool, and anyone can use a tool. Except this idea, this notion that Kenji had as a child, stuck with him for almost 50 years. And he was given an opportunity here with Star Wars Visions to sort of share his interpretation of the lightsabers, which I think is probably the most fascinating part of the Ninth Jedi to me. Like, I love the idea that the crystals in the saber connect so much so to the person wielding it that the color is determined by them and their actions and their state of mind and their sort of beliefs, right? Like, they're sort of like, I think calling it like a Jedi mood ring is a little bit of an oversimplification, but the way the lightsaber is able to change due to the state of mind of the wielder, I think is very, very impressive, and as well as the size and shape of the blades. I thought that was a very neat idea to it when we were first introduced to these characters in the opening short in Volume 1. Now, we only got alluded to about Nawam, our big bad, in those shorts, but because we spent most of the time connecting with the new characters who were sort of going to drive the action, like Kara, like Juro, and her father Lazima, and these are sort of our primary three characters. But there's some other ones too. All right, so don't think there aren't. There's a lot going on in this show that makes it all worthwhile. It is a fun watch. It is worth checking out. I do highly enjoy it. Again, that first installment in Visions, Volume 1, was really strong. But it is something of a misnomer as well, because Kara is the titular Ninth Jedi in that story. However, 5 of the quote-unquote Jedi are revealed to not be so much Jedi, but Sith, who are there to make sure that the Jedi do not come back to life. So the title Ninth Jedi is somewhat inaccurate, but hey, it works for the story, and it works for us, and we're not going to pick that nit. The second installment in Visions Volume 3 was okay. I liked the little droid character, but it didn't really drive the story forward. And from what we were able to find out later on, it was because, yes, it was from Production IG, but the main people behind the first installment in Volume 1 were busy working on this series. So a different team at Production IG did that second installment. So it's a little bit different, and it is maybe possibly by and large the definition of filler. Because it doesn't really drive the story forward, other than I think we maybe get our first mention of Narwham's name in that second installment. And I love that little droid character. Toda, I think his name might be. Great character. Love that droid. Wish that droid had somehow popped up in this show, because I love that droid. That droid is great. So we won't waste too much time talking about that, because this series that picks up pretty much right where we need it to from the end of that very first installment. Again, the second one in Volume 3 was a nice little side character, side mission, if you will. But now we're going to talk about the first 4 episodes of this series. We have A New Threat, which is Episode 1. Episode 2, A Hidden Weapon. Episode 3, Voices from the Past. And Episode 4 is Narwham Attacks. These are... How would I best describe it? So our heroes are being pursued by Narwham's army. And Juro is kind of the Jedi master of this group, even though he seems to not really want to call himself that. But what we find out is that Juro and Kara's father have a connection. They were brought up by the same Jedi Master, and there was something that happened that changed their dynamic, that changed their relationship. And so these first 4 episodes serve to kind of give us a lot of exposition on their backstory, on their shared history of this section of Jedi Knights who are changing and different, and the role their master plays in galactic politics and how that changes him, and his students' perceptions of him. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of flashbacks to the backstory, specifically in episode 3, where we get a ton of information about what Kara's father was really like as a Jedi. And it is something of a spoiler, because if you've only seen those first installments, the revelation that her father, Kara's father, is not just some simple Jedi lightsaber smith, but he is in fact a great Jedi warrior. And he is alive. And so, yes, Kara is continuing her pursuit to find him. Meanwhile, Narwhal's army is tearing up the galaxy, making sure the Jedi don't rise again. And they, of course, have a super secret weapon. But it's not necessarily a Death Star, even though it is powered by kyber crystals. It is more simply just a big, giant kyber crystal cannon that looks like it can shoot through hyperspace. It's a cool piece of animation for sure. I really, really enjoyed it. At this point in the show, again, I'm only watched the first 4, so I don't know if there's more information coming about this cannon and what it can and cannot do. But neat. So these Jedi are going across the galaxy, and they're trying to get support, right? They're trying to rally people to their cause, and there's this sort of process of gifting the lightsabers of Kara's father to different characters who maybe don't have the strongest connection to the Force, but are people of good character and good belief and positivity and wanting to stand up against the injustices in the galaxy. So these are the characters that are getting lightsabers. Meanwhile, you have the character Ethan, who is sort of spying on Narwhal's forces and reporting back to Juro about what's going on. I think I skipped over Ethan in the when I was reading the cast. It's played by Masioka, who you may recall from being on Heroes back in the day. And in the last episode, he had a chance to try and free Lazima, Kara's father, played by Simu Liu, a.k.a. Shang-Chi. And listen, I don't want to get too spoilery here. I'm trying to keep it somewhat fresh for you guys. I want to intrigue you. I want to get your whistle wetted. Wetted? I want to wet your whistle so you watch the show, because I do think it's a fun interpretation of Star Wars. It hits on all the right things, like the hopefulness, the need to rise up against tyranny and injustice, the coming together to save people from bad things, putting your petty differences aside to stand up for right and to help your fellow being. There's these like space miners who kind of give off big like dwarf energy, but they have like elf ears. Bear with me on that metaphor. And it's just, they're sort of like the focus of these first 4 episodes as a target for Narwhal's army and that space cannon. Again, it's hard to kind of dance around certain things. And I am going to spoil a big part of it right now, because, again, in that first installment, right, we were first introduced to these characters a couple years ago. The bad guys, the Sith, had red lightsabers. But here's a surprise twist for this. When we finally meet Narwhal and he engages his lightsaber, it is not red. Oh no, it is much more interesting than all that. And what I like that it's doing to the mythology here is that it seems to be playing around with the idea of being strictly Jedi, strictly Sith, right? Like you're good or you're bad. And it looks like there's again, I'm only 4 episodes in. I don't know where they're going to take it, but it feels like there's this sort of idea that Narwhal wants to be the ultimate Force user by sort of being able to take all aspects and kind of become emotionless, right? Like realizing that good, bad, it's indifference. It's not having an emotional stake in the game that propels him to success. And so he has sort of like this silvery lightsaber, but it feels like he's trying to achieve this total balance of nothingness and gain the elusive translucent lightsaber blade, which is something very, very cool that I don't think we've seen since that first installment back in Visions Volume 1. So they're playing around with a lot of concepts for the Force without, I think, really upsetting the apple cart, to a certain degree. Like, yes, it's new and it's different, but it's exciting because it's interpreting things that we've long seen and talked about in new ways. And so I find it very, very refreshing. When Narwhal attacks in Episode 4, there is a lot of great exposition and dialogue between him and Cara. Again, initially, Narwhal's giving off big Kylo Ren vibes with his helmet and everything like that. But the scene where he activates his lightsaber for the first time and they see that it's not red is something of a shocker. And I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. One of the other things I really like about the show, obviously the animation looks fantastic. It's a nice blending of traditional animation with computer graphics. Looks really, really good. I love the visuals of the droids in this series. I think they've done a great job with these droids. I love that they incorporated the old lumbering, hunkery kind of droid that was like sipping on tea, but I'm sure it was oil in the very first volume of Visions. But they've sort of brought him on as like a main crew member for their ship. The droids look great in this. My one complaint thus far is that we don't get a lot of development for a lot of the other characters. These first 4 episodes have been so much exposition while also balancing out driving the story forward. And I think they have achieved that pretty well thus far. Though there are a lot of neat characters visually who I'd like to know more about, but I just don't think they're going to get the screen time. They're just there as sort of like support roles. And that's fine. That can be that way. And then another knock I have, at least for these first 4 episodes, specifically because in Visions Volume 1, when we were at the Ninth Jedi, and as we are meeting the characters who are summoned to this like citadel in the sky, to be bequeathed these lightsabers from the Sabersmith, there are several very interesting new alien species that we'd never seen before, and I had hoped to see more of them. Keep showing me varieties of aliens I'm not familiar with, or like slight variations of ones that we have seen before. They've stayed away from that thus far through these first 4 episodes. Like I said, we have like the sort of space miners that are giving off big dwarf / Gimli energy. But then after that, with the exception of I think it's Haman is his name, and he's like the big bird-looking guy. Everyone else is humanoid, and I'm okay if you want to mix it up. Let's get crazy with it. It's good stuff. Again, 4 episodes. These first 4 give us a lot of the background information that I think we wanted to have, but it also drives the story forward of what Narwhal and his army of baddies are up to and trying to control the galaxy and sort of his quest to become the ultimate Force user, and that's not, again, the sort of like not emotionally charged. He's very matter of fact. I don't get too high. I don't get too low. I am Ben Stein with a lightsaber. So it's interesting. I'm waiting to see how that pans out. I'm at the halfway point, and it felt like after the end of episode 4, it felt like the perfect place to stop and talk to you guys about the show. So, again, each episode is about 30 minutes. All 8 are out right now, and I will get those next 4 knocked out, and we'll talk about them probably next week, to be perfectly honest with you. But we'll see how everything shakes out. And if I'm just blown away by everything, we'll get those last 4 out to you quicker than you can say Ninth Jedi 20 times back to back. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Especially in the entire title. If you were to say Star Wars Visions presents The Ninth Jedi 20 times, oh boy, that's going to hurt. It's going to get you. But yeah, check it out. Breaking it down, I'd say each episode, episodes 1, 2, and 3 are each 7 buckets apiece. But I'm going to give 8 to episode 4. I thought episode 4 was excellent. Episode 3 is really strong too. I think each episode does get a little bit better than the last so far because each one's giving us a little bit more information, and they're escalating the action at the same time. So they're doing a really good job of ramping things up, and I feel like that's going to continue, especially after the way episode 4 ends. Another shocker, another shocking moment. I'm just gonna say it. Jiro dies. and again, that's sort of the joy. That's one of the things you can do. You're not constrained. Your visions. You're telling a story outside the box. Like you're not killing Luke Skywalker. No. You're able to tell your story and have real consequences and real stakes, and not have characters who have plot armor. So check it out. Give it a go. I know anime is not always everyone's cup of tea, but I think this is very agreeable, very approachable anime. It's not the over-the-top anime. There's still some anime aspects to the show that kind of tweak me just a little bit every now and then. And I don't even know if I can properly articulate what those little quirks of anime are that sort of set my teeth on edge. But maybe after all 8 episodes are done, we'll talk a little bit more about me and my weird anime things. But we don't have to. It might be too much. It might be too much for you to handle. My little weird quirks and eccentricities about anime. Anyways, go check out The Ninth Jedi, 1 through 4. I just did it. And then 5 through 8 coming soon. And we'll talk about it together. And hey, let me know what you think. Hit me up on the socials. Mando_Vision on X and Insta. MandoVision at Blue Sky. And of course, you can email the show. MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. And if you can, sweet 5-star reviews. They help us out tremendously. All right, go out there, Bucketheads. Be great supporters of the Star Wars. Kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, tolerant, patient, and embracing of all other ideas and interpretations of Star Wars, including The Ninth Jedi. And we'll be back next week to talk to you some more, or possibly sooner. We'll see how things go. This is the MandoVision Podcast, and I am your host, Nargai Tom. Remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
I would like to see the baby.